the discussion will focus on the questions: how can cultural, alternative, pedagogical, and art public / art practices / projects impact community identity and art politics? That's Angel.
Don't forget the slashes, okay?
Yes, sorry. So Angel Velasco Shaw is a visual and media artist, writer, educator, and curator living in Manila and New York City. Do I read? Her experimental documentaries, Markets of Resistance, Inherited Memories, When Absence Becomes Presence, Motherlode, co-produced with Josephine Turalba, The Momentary Enemy, Umbilical Cord, Asian Voice, and Nailed have screened internationally in festivals, museums, and schools. She also has embarked on curatorial projects, visual art / film exhibitions, and cross-cultural exchange projects. Sige, sandali. Teka muna.
It's too long.
We actually worked with Angel in 2019 we're very proud of this exhibition, Not Visual Noise. There are copies of the catalog there. And also, she's currently working on the publication that will mark the 50th anniversary of Galleria Duemila, among others. Okay, so Angel, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Okay. I am a little nervous, actually. Okay. So I'm very nervous. This project has been a very, very long time in the making. I'd like to read a couple of pages from the introduction of Markets of Resistance, the book, or the anthology, with 44 contributors, several of whom are here. It's a mixture of critical essays, cultural essays, poetry, visual essays of artists. And then there's an archive. So just to give you a little bit of the volumes, they're not numbered, because the idea here is to try to engage the readers to, like, meander through our books. Sorry, I'm just going to do a little show and tell while I'm starting this. So no, that's okay. So this is a mock-up of one of the 4 volumes. Okay, this is a piece that Santiago Bosse so graciously gifted me with. So that's the cover of this one. This one's called Unfolding Consciousness. There's another volume called Betrayal and Defiance, The Afterlives of Encounters, The Markets of Resistance Archive, and Unnecessary Fictions. And the book is dedicated to Santiago Bosse, Roberto Villanueva, and Renee Aquitania. It's also for David Baradas, Ben Cabrera, Katrin de Gia, Tommy Hafalia, William McTigby, Perry Mamaril, and Kidlat Tahimik, who were the founding members of the Baguio Arts Guild. That is why I'm here in this country, still. So, sorry. Can I? Okay. This is a quote from David Graeber, who was an anthropologist. Money is vital to the working of a market economy. Imagine what life would be like without it. The alternative to a monetary economy is barter. People exchanging goods and services for other goods and services directly instead of exchanging via the medium of money. Confluences of culture. The Markets of Resistance project was gestating before I was born. 3 primary encounters served as its inspiration. so much better. During one of my trips to the Philippines when I was in my early 20s, my maternal eldest aunt told me a tantalizing tale about how my great-grandmother and grandmother came to settle in Libertad Market in Pasay City. It was sometime around the mid-1890s when mother and daughter walked 193 kilometers from Nueva Ecija province, selling household goods from their ox-driven cart to the Spanish colonial pueblo near Manila. Here they set up a small eatery in the local market. After World War II, my grandmother established a meat stall in Divisoria Market. In exchange for her goods, she would often barter for rice, fish, eggs, or vegetables with some of her regular customers. Those barter trade practices of my grandmother flowed into the professional practice of my mother, who I'm very happy is sitting right there. Okay, albeit in very different ways. In 1957, after returning from their medical residencies in the United States, my parents and 3 of their classmates opened Parañaque Medical Clinic. My mother, following the tradition of her own mother, would often accept staple foods from the parents of children who lacked the means to pay in cash for her pediatric services. The barter trade system and my love for markets as a place where culture thrives runs in my blood. Yet this inheritance gave rise to burgeoning questions about how changes in moral, ethical, civic, and capitalist contexts inform the exchanges that take place there. In hindsight, a second encounter in 2011, while on a road trip with 3 close colleagues, the historian and political scientist Benedict Anderson, Karina Belasco, retired Anvil Publishing General Manager and Ateneo de Manila University Press Director, and the late Ami Misciano, owner of Penguin Cafe and Art Gallery, instigated an exploration into the, instigated an exploration into the intricate relationships of these 2 marketplaces, one that could support both barter trade and monetary economies, and the other a monetary exchange that yields profits for the artists, dealers, and collectors, albeit unequal. Together we visited Baguio, the Ifugao Rice Terraces, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and Sagada, a flourishing town where the Kankanai elders continue to maintain substantial control over their village affairs. During our 4-day trip together, Ben and I engaged in conversations about topics I'd been exploring in my creative practice. They ran between empire building, imperialism, Spanish and American colonial legacies, and their complex impact on Filipinos in the Philippines and in the diaspora. The most memorable conversation took place at the Vista Point, looking across the Ifugao Rice Terraces in Banaue, a popular tourist site where 2 Ifugao women, elders in traditional costume, were posing for photos with tourists from Manila. The scenario offered a clear example of the problematical cultural entanglements between the Ifugao women and the visiting tourists from Manila. Both the tourists as rich Americanized lowlanders and the indigenous highlanders as exotic and uneducated satisfied their stereotypical imagination of the other. Although the Ifugao women may not have considered their own role as complicit with processes of ongoing recolonization and self-colonization, their acceptance of monetary exchange for inhabiting the colonial imaginary as colorful indigenous locals, quote unquote, supported an imaginary that respawned and sustained new iterations of emerging colonialisms. The third motivating encounter occurred in 1988, when I had the opportunity to meet the founding members of the Visionario Baguio Arts Guild while attending Santiago Bosse's exhibition opening at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Soon after, Santi invited me to Baguio, the former American colonial hill station, located in the Cordillera Central region in northern Luzon. As a 24-year-old Filipino-American emerging artist from New York, I could never have imagined interacting with such a mesmerizing confluence of people and cultures. The Bag's invigorating grassroots community and art initiatives were an amalgamation of creative energies emanating from Baguio's unique multi-ethno-linguistic inhabitants that included the Cordillera Central communities of Ibaloy, Kankanay, Bontoc, Ifugao, Kalinga, and Tingnian indigenous peoples, as well as migrants from different parts of the archipelago. These artists' multicultural, colonially resistant cultural responses emboldened them to Filipinize dominant Western art practices. The city of Baguio nurtured a hardy, critically informed community of cultural activists and workers, some of whom are here and are absolutely in the book. I lost my place. Sorry. The city of Baguio nurtured a hardy, critically informed community of cultural activists and workers whose collective practice challenged the misconception that an artist's survival was exclusively dependent upon sales of their artworks, irrespective of their long-established barter trade system, and or that it was necessary for them to reside in Manila, the nation's capital, in order to be successful. The Bag's individual and collective acts of decolonization empowered me to address similar issues in my own practice. As an invitation to participate in the first Bag's annual Arts Festival in 1989 signified a shift in my relationship with the collective and their community of supporters, repositioning me from outsider status to one of acceptance and inclusion. It was during this time that I began to consciously understand that I too possessed the nuanced concept of kapwa, a Filipino ancestral trait based on a sharing of one's personhood. Thus it came to be that the real-time markets of resistance would materialize from a 36-year-old relationship with the Baguio Arts Guild and their offspring. and the city of Baguio, where the inhabitants sustained an integrated matrix of indigenous and non-indigenous traditions, heritage, cultures, and arts in a daily struggle against overdevelopment. These personal and community-based conversations, cultural exchanges, and social encounters, both by chance and intentionality, conjured the intuitive spirit of kapwa, the driving force of all aspects of this project. In 2013, the Real-Time Markets of Resistance was initially conceptualized as a cross-cultural exchange project between artisans and artists living in Baguio City, Manila, Oaxaca, Mexico City, Madrid, and New York. The premise for bringing these creative practitioners together was to critically examine specific aspects of our shared colonial histories that continue to impact our personhood, formation, and sustainability of real communities based on localized heritage, traditions, and cultural commonalities in opposition to imagined communities constructed by the dominant nationalized culture and education industries. Invited participants were to engage in a series of activities focusing on ways to decentralize the contemporary art hubs from their respective countries' major cities, demystify the way indigenous peoples and the non-indigenous perceive each other, and to demonstrate how art and cultural convergences could be instruments for decolonization and social change. However, as always, after major funding fell through, the project was reimagined as multidisciplinary, scaled-down version set exclusively in the Philippines. As fate would have it, former President Francisco Benitez, where I was teaching at the time, I had this ideal opportunity for PWU to allow me to conduct this experimental research project, which is mentioned was undertaken in 2014 and 2015 in Baguio and then on PWU's campus. I'm almost done, I promise. The Markets of Resistance anthology is the apex of these attempts to create disruptive interventions within these dominant art, cultural, academic, and economic ecosystems, knowing full well that we were entrenched in them and that we could never completely extricate ourselves from them. More to the point, the real-time Markets of Resistance served as a portal into engaging alternative forms of artistic and pedagogical practices as agents of resistance to the mainstream arts and cultural norms. The Baguio-based project components were produced in collaboration with the art collective Access Art Project, and Kawayan de Gia spearheaded that alongside Rocky Cahigan, who were my partners in crime in this project. They brought together visual and literary artists, artisans, scholars, PW students, and faculty, volunteer staff, and the public through a number of key interactions staged in and around the expansive Baguio public marketplace. These events spanned over 2 weeks and included art installations and performances, an open mic spoken word event, film screenings, and a barter trade exhibition where we transformed 3 market stalls into pop-up galleries. This 17-minute video that I'm going to show is one of the incarnations of this project. I mean, Markets of Resistance has had so many lives, and I believe will continue to have them as hopefully people, engage not only with our work and with this book, which was done by Access Art Project. Tio Tiwang, it's an extraordinary, one-of-a-kind, encyclopedia to life, living, and art in Baguio, the Cordillera, and beyond. And in so many ways, I feel like the work that we've been doing, the people who came before me that I've mentioned, who the book is dedicated to, the Guild, they gave me the flame, and I had to make a container. And I think there are a few of my former, at least one, from PWU who participated in the project, and I hope, Mia, wherever you are, you also speak, yeah? Okay, so I'd like to show this video. I made it for the 58th Carnegie International, and it was installed in a gift shop. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of why we do some of the work that we do, I was not sure if I should install Markets of Resistance in a gift shop and my postcards that I bartered for, because now who's being the capitalist? But I was not allowed to make the money. In fact, the gift shop did. And it was quite interesting the way that the curator had integrated my video and the postcards into the shop. So when people started walking around and interacting with it, they started to realize that, ooh, there's some kind of criticism here going on about like art museums and art markets. And at the same time, I think recognizing that what we're really talking about here is coexistence. So when I asked the art fair and Boots if it would be okay for us to originally launch the book here, which we couldn't, but that we could have this dialogue, is to be able to say, look, here we are. We do all these different things to work together.
You could have launched it, but it's not.
No, right, it's not, yeah, it's soon, right. Okay, so here's the video that was installed, and we're gonna open it up pretty fast. Kawayan de Gia, Francisco Benitez, Rocky Cahigan, take a bow. These guys, none no aspect of this project could have been done, first and foremost, without him, who believed in what we were all trying to do. So I thank you greatly for that. He is someone who 100% has dedicated his life to education and alternative forms of pedagogy. And that kind of inspiration that I got from him led me to draw all these people in and for all of us to do this project. Okay, so I'm going to shut up now and we can screen it.
Or subtext. Kasi shadow siya subtext. Yung not exactly above the surface na nakikita natin.
Nagudagot naman sinata. Wala na nilagay. Balance. Hindi daw pawisan nita.
Enjoy ka nga doon, hindi mo pa nga.
Tutok mo na.
Dahil at pabuyan na sana, ikanit mayayat. Okay. Kain madud ng tako. Ala, la kayo adi kaila. Nay, umalik kami ta, ipailak man na nay. Kadayag dito, poko nga. Sabay ko makamahit may kikan kadayag. This is the Dukligan. And what I just did was to give him like getting their permission that will show the eye.
That was good. I mean, I kept going back and forth waiting
Thank you for coming to Sagada,
Salamat din po sa pag...
especially when you come to our Dapay. Because I'm the oldest man here in the Dap.
Ilan taon na po kayo?
I'm now 76 now. How come that you do not know how to speak even a single Filipino language?
I tried. Wait.
Painted, but if you notice, yung ganyan, how Uncle Sam, you know, I want you, same thing. I want you.
Every 2 weeks, one language dies.
There's a lot of colonization that's still going on in the city. Although there's not much influence from America anymore, but the Filipinos themselves, especially from the people from the lowlands, they tend to, in some way, even unconsciously, colonize or change or put their standards or mindset to these people there, which is different from what the people believe in.
Every 2 days, a word or two is forgotten.
Ito yung... Ano yung parang... child labor, parang ganyan.
Ano?
Child labor.
It's found object art. I think it describes my experiences on Baguio, and it's like that. It's Jollibee. So yeah, I'm still working on it, and the houses too. In this, I'm going to make collages and mix media works.
Are you going to barter different things for the different, because it's nice. It's like you're making different series. So do you want to barter for different things, or are you thinking about bartering for the same thing?
Different, but mainly books.
good for mixing.
Who bordered for that?
Algo especial.
Do you know who wanted that one?
That's Benji's work there on the wall.
But you know, this is for his wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we tried to sell him single malt. We have like a good bottle of single malt, but he said my wife wants tequila.
What it is that is being done is the barter system. The barter system it really depends on the people here in Baguio if they want to sustain that system. Because art is as well like a product, right? It's something that you buy.
I cannot get you an iPhone, huh? I can't afford that. I'll get everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like what kind of longganisa? How many kilos do you need? Just a kilo. What kind of longganisa? Don't make me buy Chinese longganisa. I do not want to go back to SM Baguio.
Typically, when you see an art piece, there's a hard cash price below it. And it kind of like, it becomes the only medium of communication between you and the artist. You're just talking money. And it's always a little bit difficult to negotiate with an artist when all you're talking about is money. But when there's an item, when you're bartering for something, for a particular item, number one, I had a richer insight into the artist's needs, and I saw a complete different perspective of the artist. You know? So one artist will barter his work for a car stereo, and another artist will barter for a can of paint. So immediately there, I kind of like have an understanding of like stature and which artist is more established than other artists.
It's nice. What did you exchange that with?
Rice.
Rice. Wow.
Who taught us to say tinalak instead of tinalak, bilaan instead of blaan, tiboli instead of tuboli, panagbenga instead of panagbenga. What twist of the brain of the television brought us that we made our tongues lazy in twisting? Often our tongues are only hungry for the exotic food this so different culture is offering us. But when will our tongue learn the real twist, turns and struggles of these people displayed for the eyes of the tourist?
Yay! It's part of a larger project in this map, and it's called Markets of Resistance. So there are only two installations, this one and the Statue of Liberty that is over there.
Excuse me, naipalo ba kayo?
So these are all your photographs that you woven into one piece.
Yeah, it's basically two photos usually.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
You can either get me Smart Bro, internet broadband, or Glow prepaid. Get the phone cards. I'm out of load. Okay, that's it. So if I... Everything that you basically see in that video are actually in the 4 volumes and much more. And there's also a website that's going to be going up soon called Project Trade Routes. So I'd like to reintroduce Rocky Kihigan. Can I roll you in? This is Rocky.
Grabe naman yun.
This is Kiko. Hello. And this is Quiet.
Hello.
So, what's it like watching this?
I was expecting more blackmail. I mean, it's been 10 years, right? Or 11, so. Yeah. It's your baby. It's Angel's baby, and she's been working at it. She's been at it for a decade, and we're all cheering for her that she finally can give birth to to get the project out, finally. Yeah. So.
But aside from that, no, really, I mean, we were all in this together, and there's a few of you that are in the audience as well. I mean, Eileen Legaspi Ramirez, she actually came to both. The one in Baguio and the one in Manila. Manila was very different because it was the students' turn. They then had to be the ones to share with the Manila people what they experienced in Baguio and in other parts of the Cordilleras. So Eileen was there for both, and she also is in the book. Carla Delgado, I think you were for both, or just the one in Baguio? Right, so, I mean, I'm just, curious.
Sorry, what was the question?
No, there is no question. No, response.
Are you regretting it?
I'm kind of wondering what I'm doing here. I mean, obviously we have 3 brilliant artists, and apparently I am a state functionary now, who was at one time in the past an academic, right? No, okay. I don't know if Tita Mutia knows. I actually knew of Angel in my previous life as an academic, primarily from her work, Vestiges of War, that had to do with the American colonial experience in the Philippines, primarily. Because I was at that time working, part of my research was the transition from Spanish to American imperial control in the Philippines. At the same time, as part of my job to pay me through graduate school, I was a research assistant for a project that had to do with public health policy in the Philippines under the American colonial regime and its transition from Spanish to the US, of which a very important component was actually Baguio. At the same time, the building of the road to Baguio from Manila in order to create a summer capital for nervous American, right? The condition was they had bad nerves because it was too warm in Manila and they were subject to malaria, so they had to build a whole city in Baguio where they could recuperate, yeah, because they had neural problems. And the creation of that road and the creation of that city was one of the largest infrastructure projects at the turn of the 20th century in the Philippines, which also caused a change in labor relations, actually, so that different ways to organize laborers on such massive scale also started at around 1904, no, when the road to Baguio was built. So when I was then president of PWU, and Angel came to propose a project like this, which resonated, in fact, with my own research concerns, though my field is literature and literary theory. It was also another part that, again, Angel, I don't think is aware. But at that point in time for PWU, we were trying to re-inject into college the experiential learning and pedagogical approach of the Jose Abad Santos Memorial School, or JASAMS, on the tertiary level, which meant more experiential learning for our students. I don't think if there are students here from that time, I don't think students realized how difficult it was, because CHED at that point in time had actually disallowed, quote unquote, field trips and off-campus activities for students because of legal liabilities, right? And I had visions of busloads of students falling off a cliff, right, on the way to Baguio. So when you show that drive up in the rain, right? But having said that, the Markets of Resistance project, as far as PWU was concerned, was a unique opportunity for a kind of experiential learning that, in fact, layered many things that we were trying to convey and teach our students, right? That it also provided them with access to an experience that was unique, but also at the same time theoretically profound. I think much more profound than maybe even the students or even Angel might have been able to convey, no, to everybody involved in the project. It's nice to see the video 10 years, 11 years after the event. I looked very young. Tells you what government service does to someone. But obviously, it's a project that theoretically, at least, breaks open the kind of commodity fetishism that we associate with art and art exchange, right? The barter as a mode by which you relate to the artist is really meant to uncover processes of reification, and so on. But you don't need to know all of that. I think when you experience it, you don't necessarily have to have the language intuitively, theoretical language, to talk about it. To have that kind of experience in a location and a locality that has such deep and profound layers of history, right? Linking all the way as deliberately from Angel's point of view, the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, right, in the US, and having that echo in the market really brings about a certain vision of globalization and imperial history that gets hidden. So a project that does all of that, among other things, right, was something that we felt, at least in PWU, we would try to do regardless of how difficult legally it was with our higher education regulators. So congratulations, Angel.
Har.
For those of you that are interested in trying to work in these locations or sites of convergence, that there's absolutely, like I just have to say one last time, that it is impossible to do this kind of work without having the visions of people like these three people, really. And the students, I think, Mia, you can speak, right? I mean, what's it like for you? She's one of the 10 years later, woo! No, really, as Kiko, Sir Kiko.
Hi. Okay. I did not expect that, but okay. Hi, everyone. For me, it certainly has changed the way how I approach my own personal work. Back then, when I was way younger, I was so focused on following the market and being overwhelmed by consumerism. But thanks to Markets of Resistance, I have looked at it at a different way. And what I mean by that is it showed me that art is also a platform where I can give voice to people who don't have voices. So for like the past 10 years, my photography and my paintings have been focused around cultures and society around me, and how that, people aren't given enough exposure to have their voice. That's basically it. Thank you.
You were put on the spot.
Who do I?
I was going to ask Rocky if he'd like to.
What?
So he was my arms and legs and everything. This man on a day-to-day basis. After Kawaiian, so Kawaiian was able to be there. He's like the ringmaster. I mean,
Is that so?
No, and we missed you. So when Kawaiian had to, unfortunately, he had to go accompany his father for something. So he was there for everything from the beginning. I mean, I couldn't think of anyone else to collaborate with. This project was so important, and in terms of there are many people in this audience who are very good friends with the people from the Baguio Arts Guild. So I think I'm not alone when I say, it is a hub for the arts. It's, for me, a bigger hub than Manila. Precisely because it's become its own center. And many people, I think, are gravitating towards Baguio and leaving Manila, or going back and forth more. And Rocky, was the one on the ground in many ways, perhaps because he's also an accountant, that he really helped me figure out the budget and all this stuff, because PWU
couldn't afford all of it.
Correct. cut my budget 3 times.
Wait,
So
I
here's
have to say
Rocky.
that Rocky's accounting skills, he had to do that just to finish his degree. It was
Yeah.
it was just the tip
I quit
of,
accounting,
you know.
actually. But yeah, my takeaway, like 10 years, 11 years later, is that at that time we just finished like a string of annual activities, art projects for Access Art Project. This was like the last project that we were doing after, after Tiwtiwong, the book.
What was it? It was from Burnham Park.
From Burnham Park, we did like an arts festival there with like 150 artists. And then the year after, we did a caravan, and then another version of the caravan
from
Baguio,
Sagada,
Baguio
Bontoc?
to initially Baguio to Bontoc, and then Baguio to Bontoc to Sagada to Ifugao,
right,
and then to Singapore
again
with Joyce.
And then here comes Angel with a smart idea to do this.
And we were like kind of tired.
Yeah, we were.
So, but I felt like at that time, I felt like, parang there was this idea that I was coming from an NGOized, like labor, whatever. So I was always like concerned that we were not collaborating and that we were, concerned always that we were not imposing. Or because there wasn't a lot of finance that of course you'd have to compromise. And looking back at it now, I felt like it was really nice that it was like this idea of a market, so that you can negotiate the space, or you don't have to concern yourself with that binary, So yeah. So whether it's successful or not takes a backseat somehow. Yep.
I have a question for you.
Wait, this isn't about me. This is about the project and everybody else who are part of it and the audience if you have questions.
Well, my thing is like, how do you feel about it after, 11 years ago, getting into it? Because, we were supposed to go to Mexico and do something there and here, but, as we all know, I know how difficult it is to publish a book or to get something together. It's like, and things change. Trump came into power, Duterte came into power, and this was the first time Trump came into power. I'm not even talking about the present, but because of this, a lot of things, the things change course, and sort of eventually you feel like it's almost like a burden or a big like amulet you're wearing around your neck that you have to finish this this project. So I would like to know how you're feeling about it, and was it worth all the breakdowns and breakups, breakdowns, and also good things, the ups and downs of such a, it's a big project, Angel. Come to think about it.
Well, I think like all the other multidisciplinary projects that I've taken on, you don't stop living these. I don't feel that they necessarily ever end. I don't think that the projects that all of you worked on with Access, and folks, please pick up this book because they have all these, stuff. This book was a phenomenal resource for me so that I could finish Markets of Resistance. Really, it helped me come full circle to be able to find things in this book, and real good research went into this book. And it's in my archive. So the Afterlives of Encounters is the Markets of Resistance archive. And in putting that whole thing together, I felt like I was making one of my films. I felt like I was editing images on paper. And it's a very lonely, vulnerable experience, especially during COVID and not being able to have access to everybody. So I just wanted to actually, wrong glasses. I just want to read just the very couple first sentences. So this is unfolding consciousness. And I say it, at this juncture, I would like to make a full disclosure to the reader about the trials and tribulations of bringing an ambitious anthology such as this one over the finish line. The lapses of time in this book production were experienced as both a blessing and a curse. When the COVID-19 pandemic necessitated my return to New York, I was cut off from the direct contact with the Markets of Resistance participants and book contributors in my Filipiniana library. The consequences of this severed link to Philippine Women's University students, Baguio artists and artisans from the Axis Art Project Collective, Manila and Baguio family of friends, and the locations themselves were unbeknown to me until faced with the daunting task of writing the general introduction and the 4-volume introductions for this volume. The spirit of kapwa, the intrinsic guiding light for all aspects of the real-time markets of resistance, were surprisingly dormant. This Filipino concept of the shared self seemed to have no substantive place in New York, my other home. Yet this unexpected struggle, precipitated by distance, catapulted me into a different kind of critical self-dialogue about the breadth of this undertaking. It forced me into another kind of agency and praxis that combined to synthesize the poetry, cultural, scholarly, and visual essays within and across each volume through instinctive choices that were made more poignant through this physical absence of my Markets of Resistance communities. So I think that kind of, says it. And of course, I couldn't imagine finishing this in New York without all of your energies. It would have been impossible. I think one of the most painful, difficult things is, and I'm sure you all can relate to this, and others of you in the audience who have ever had experiences where you desperately want to share somehow. A lot of the work that I do came out of 1998 and me feeling like, I got to share this with the world, basically. And that is what I try to do. And I try to do it in ways where also as an educator, we can connect and understand that the creative process, the creative thinking is actually, I hope, going to save us, right? I mean, who knows if it's true, but they say that there's this psychiatrist named Alice Miller had said that Hitler wanted to be a painter. And is that true, Kiko? And that, does anybody know? I looked to him because, is that true? An architect, not a painter.
No, he was a painter.
Oh, he was a painter, but he couldn't be, whatever. Alice Miller said that's, what?
Drop out.
Ah, thanks, Mark. Okay, hey, look, this is a good way to open it up since people are calling out from the audience. Okay, can you hear from some of you? Please. I forgot what my sentence was. What was my sentence? Oh, well, I had read in one of Alice Miller's books that he wanted to be an architect, a painter. And, my thing, like, was it you this morning in the walkthrough that was asking about something about creativity, and I was like trying to say that, it sounds like corny or whatever, but everybody is creative. We all have it in us. It's our societies, I feel, that squash it somehow in the ways that we're raised. When you think about teaching and learning, or learning and teaching, and is formal education necessarily the answer? Is going to art school necessarily the answer to being a successful artist? I went to an art school and I didn't even know how to balance my checkbook. What did I learn? I learned how tough the art world is. I learned that respect for artists is difficult. Self-respect for our own work is difficult when you're always in a situation where you're the one who's creating these things, and at the same time, you're not being treated as an equal in many ways. And for Markets of Resistance, I mean, the thing that constantly blew me away was seeing the everyday people coming in and looking, young people being able to barter for art. You know, I mean, Bernie over here, she bartered for 2 pieces.
Is that what's going on downstairs?
Well,
there's an alley there, which kind of...
Well, no, but let's talk about that mess. Because this is why I wanted to do this talk and launch the book here. Very badly, because we're addressing the noise. We have to. We are contradictions. We have to do all kinds of things to be able to live. And I really felt that to be able to do the launch here would somehow open up another kind of conversation, right? We have to participate in the marketplace. We're all consumers, right? But at the same time, we're also community builders. We're people who are trying to sustain diverse communities and work across generations, right? So, I mean, maybe it's a rationalization for feeling like it's okay to be here, but we're here. So, you know, right? Questions? Yeah. This is little Deshawn Bosse. She's the middle child of Santiago.
Well, actually, no, this is a very serious question because thinking about how you need capital to buy art, and here in the Philippines especially, like for the privileged, capital to buy art is nothing. But you put Markets of Resistance in a space where anyone can go through. Did people who have no capital, like, did they come and buy art? Did they barter for art? Like, and then was there any moment where people who would never have thought to buy art was like, I want this, and like, I want an experience like that? And how did that experience for the artists in the group, like how did that experience impact the way you market your work afterward?
Yes and yes. There were people who came up with the capital, and there were people who, you know, ordinary locals exchanging coffee for whatever. But wait, what is the question? I mean,
Well, how did you figure out how much your work was worth?
okay, my personal way was giving them a hard time, you know, asking for something illegal or a banig from Marawi or something. So it was gonna be the experience of getting for the buyer to get those stuff and, you know, return it. So I'm adding another layer to that whole, I guess, barter thing for me, okay? But I don't know, did it work? I think it was a really great experiment, and in the end, it's really questioning everyone left and right. You know, the artist, the collector, the audience. But I think most importantly, it was the fact that it happened in the market, which was really amazing. You know, and you had all sorts of comments from kids saying, "Is that art? Nah, just that," you know. So I think it was great, and and it went rather smoothly. I think, in spite of all odds.
All the crying?
All the crying.
Well, I failed. The thing that I was bartering with Coin for, he asked me for Angel Shaw 10 Days of Silence. Correct.
She did 2 days.
Well, me, initially, it was like kind of very difficult to erase the concept of introducing fine art to the masses, you know. I was part of the masses, so I am part of them. So it was like kind of like, how do you erase that? How do you work with that? How do you price your work, self-audit? Yeah, it was an interesting process for sure. It, of course, like clearly you know where you are now and how you price your work and deal with collectors, galleries, and all that. And then like, you know, like when the professor asks you for a piece of your work now, and then you price it differently behind everyone else's back. So like that also happens. So you know, it continues.
You know, we faced a tremendous amount of contradictions in this project, and you know, and I, not to keep plugging the book, but I try to draw out as much as possible with the other contributors in the book what some of these contradictions are. And the playwright Sam Shepard, I think, said it quite well, and I'll paraphrase it, that, you know, to be in the middle of a contradiction is the most exciting place to be, because that's where life is. And I would have to say that's true. I mean, and there's differences, we hope, between contradiction and hypocrisy. And we went through a lot. I mean, one of our closest friends in the group, Santos Bajuca, at one point had, you know, in a rather upset, little bit angry tone, saying, well, why you? Why do you get to do this? You know, and it's like, shit, exactly. Right? The girl from New York, right? Why can't it be an indigenous woodcarver from Hapa? You know, and we faced that. Rocky, I mean, I don't know how many times I felt like I had to be beyond mindful of making sure that I don't speak as much as I can possibly not speak for indigenous people. That this was a place to, as best as possible for all of us that are non-indigenous. We all are still marginalized, many of us who came together to work. But I mean, that is something, we were up against that. And you yourself, within your own community, right? So maybe you could talk about that.
Well, it's difficult also, you know, like, even in making work, or even in, like, helping you guys, like, you know, making sure we're not, you know, this is a real collaboration, and, you know, nothing is, like, created without the other. So, yeah, even now I'm amazed at how difficult it is, even for me, to represent my work as indigenous, which I try not to do.
Impossible.
Yeah. But then, you know, like, of course, the burden is always almost on the side of the non-indigenous to do your own fucking research. Thank you.
Are there people in the audience that, I'm just curious, who do this kind of like multidisciplinary or hybrid kind of work out there? Other artists, educators, students? Yep. Would you like to share with us?
Thank you, first of all, for sharing. I'm Carlos Santoro. I'm working in collaboration with the Giti Institute in Cambodia. I just arrived here since 6 months, established here my practice. We had similar practices here in the community in Cambodia over there, with the artists and the Giti, of course. We did feel the same as why we should involve with the community as a foreigner, in a way. I'm Italian, but I was working with the Germans. And there, the question was mostly about the somehow weaving of these decolonizations that has to be put into the text of the art critics to be accepted, and in such a way where in itself is again a way of colonize the thought, as decolonization is brought as a label more than an actual fact, where decolonization means nationalizations of the thought rather than actually decolonize, and again selling the sauvage to the new wave of buyers where they finished with the markets on the western side and they came in the Asian side. Southeast Asia right now is one of the most upcoming reality that will be again sold to the new world as a local identity where locality are actually the spirit that has to be sold inside of the market with the same kind of attitude. And that for us was installations and collaborations where collaborations were not actually decolonizing anything. They were not even pretend to be local or to be foreigner or to be anything. So we accepted the idea that there were not a plan. And most of all was the involvement of the artists with the community that made the project successful. The acceptance of the community of a strange animal in the room that comes as a foreigner, in a sense, of course, the foreign part, foreign faces and attitude and strategies. But on the other side, the acceptance of the local community of artists, where that was, okay, that's something else that can resonate with what is our work. And somehow going to be different, not going to be Cambodian, going to be something that is not even outside of Cambodia. Something that resonates with the work of art. Because in itself, art was intended as something that was not there, was not commodifiable, in a sense, was even not sellable. We did projects where the last project that I was involved was the unsustainable cell, where we reversed the process in the market, where the market, we bought bananas, and of course there is a bit of Andy Warhol and other things, but was the moment of bananas, where bananas signify at that time the idea of the celebrations of the Cambodian New Year. So it was taken as a double symbol of the most iconic artist of the West, but also the most important fruits during the celebration. So somehow, how came out this idea was to reverse the process on a market where we were selling at a lower price. And we were buying at higher price, like $1 per casket, and then we sold at $0.50 per casket. And we kept going on with all the market and buying within the market. And the market were starting to crash it in a way and say, like, what is happening?
Did you try doing that with art also?
We did it, we filmed it. We did was the project.
Not the bananas.
It was,
You crashed the market. I mean,
we were not selling. We were not. That was the only project we were selling anything. It's the Gateway was involved in activity where actually our believing was to not sell anything, to just exhibit it as an institution. We ended up by creating projects like the first ever Cambodian contemporary art museum in 10 square meters. That was possible because the artists were starting to believe that there was no agenda out of it. No decolonizing agenda, not colonizing agenda, not anything, even not. We were working with the idea, okay, there is no cash in it. We don't want cash, we don't pay you, but we don't pay, you don't pay us, don't pay the price. We were saying, okay, who is ever involved? It just came out because we want to be involved. And that's the spirit. I mean, I think resonate with with the narrative that you are presenting, in the sense that everything is constructed with the possibility of the people to address necessity that arise during the project. And so the project is an incipit, but it doesn't have a forced conclusion. So that's...
We have to talk after the forum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Angel and everybody, thank you so much for the project. And what I really have appreciated about it, I'm Carla Delgado, a supporter of the arts and all of you from Baguio. What I've always appreciated about Markets of Resistance is how inclusive it is. And I've heard comments about this current round of art fair feeling less inclusive than before, change in venue, different location, and also, you know, I was with an educator yesterday who said, you know, there should be a day where it's free. And then what is the point of art fair? Is it just to sell, or is it about our culture and about having our own people see our own art? And on the one hand, and then on the other, people saying this art fair is really so commercial. People are talking about, oh, I sold already, or this sold already, or it's all about sell. So I think this roundtable is really important because it looks at, I don't know, it makes me think about what is the point of art fair, you know? And I just appreciate the inclusivity of Markets of Resistance. Is that the only point though?
Yes.
Yes.
They're not exhibitions.
These are
To hear from Silvana.
commercial art projects that you see. They're
No,
very
this is only an illusion what you have. Because as a simple, when you want to start any kind of project, no matter what you want, you can do it yourself. Yeah, but how much is the cooperation of other people?
Yeah, but the art fair itself is inherently a market model. It is inherently made to sell art, which is a very necessary part of the arts ecosystem. But to pretend it is anything other than an inherently commercial endeavor is a little naive, in my opinion.
Well, is that from the money that you receive, you also can sponsor out of the project, then help.
Sure, but the project itself, the art fair inherently as an intrinsic idea, is made to sell art, which is a very necessary part of the art ecosystem in the community.
But you have also to think of the repercussion and the help that gives. I mean, if it's like when you eat bread, they have to.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You know, we live in a capitalistic society that requires money, and that's fine. That's what it is.
But barter is the same thing. You barter one thing, there is no cash involved, but the little object or the shell that you think is always.
Yeah. No, but you know, I have to say though that it is this is we need to have these kinds of conversations, these kinds of debates. I mean, Solana's got the oldest gallery in this country. So if there's anybody who's been around to see the ebbs and flows of the local market, she's right there. And so I think, and she's the only one of all the gallerists that I know in this country who came to our market, to our project. You know, there were people who thought we were somehow cutting the galleries out. And it's like, wait, no, we're not talking about that. We are talking about that. But I think that this kind of conversation, we are unfortunately going to have to move it quick because it's like 6:20 or something, and unfortunately we're going to have to vacate. But I don't want to cut you all off in terms of being able to continue the conversation. So maybe outside we can go have a drink somewhere and continue. If you feel like it. If you feel like it. Yeah.
Sure. I just wanted to.
Hi, I'm Dindin. I'm one of the co-founders of Art Fair Philippines. I just wanted to add to the conversation. Why did we start the Art Fair? Because also the galleries asked us to come up with a platform that would be a relevant art fair platform within Asia. So that's one. But we didn't realize that we would have such a huge general public that would be interested in it, which is one of the reasons why we have these programs, because it provides us the opportunity to bring the general public, provide them with more, ideas or conversation about contemporary art. But, I mean, we are in no way trying to be, we are clear about the fact that we are an art fair, but there are some unique opportunities I think that we could, in fact, work with. I'm a teacher, and my background is really museum work, and I've always, it's always been about developing audiences for the arts, and I think this is one of the opportunities that has presented itself. And I just wanted to, well, put it out there also to be able to add to the conversation. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, David, because again, as an educator, Dindin being an educator, and as I mentioned earlier, that again, to have an opportunity like this to present our works in this kind of an environment, and this kind of an environment, you know, in many ways, the Philippine Art Fair is not like all other art fairs. Precisely as you're saying, because you have diverse kinds of talks, you're providing spaces for alternative voices. I mean, I was a little nervous when I submitted my proposal to you for this talk, because I'm very well aware of art as business, art as practice. Where do they intersect? Where are we in tug-of-wars? I've been on all sides, you know, granting agencies having to, you know, release money to artists. I've been, you know, someone who's also applied for money for my artwork, right? So, I mean, I kind of get, like, all the different sides, and that what I'm hoping here for all of you that are, you know, here for whatever reasons you're here for, is that we can continue these conversations in our practices and with each other. I do feel that it's very, very important now more than ever, so that we can continue to humanize art and have that respect, right? I mean, there's tons of contradictions, tons. So, I mean, just parting words from these folks up here, please.
Okay, I'll start. I think part of the contradiction, if you like, is really around the question of value and what it is that we value with the work of art. Whether or not there's a commensurate amount that can be turned into currency, or if there are other things that get hidden in that valuation. What other things might we add to that valuation? And the truth is, it's a contradiction that remains open, and the open-endedness of that contradiction is precisely what gives art its value. That can change over time, because it has no use value, really, but much exchange value. So it emerges out of conversations, because it emerges out of community recognizing what those values might be, right? So consequently, the issue of collaboration, of working with someone, of recognizing the complex infrastructure that gets hidden in a piece of work, right, is part and parcel of what Market of Resistance at least wanted to expose. Not because it had an answer to it, right, but because it was a palpable experience that we wanted to at least uncover and remember, right? Because there is a whole series of consequences around these discourses. Identities get constructed, people get commodified, and so on and so forth. It is a complex system, one within which we all must dwell. So don't get yourselves fooled. There was a cost to renting the stalls in the market in Baguio, and someone had to pay for that cost, right? There was a cost to running the project, and so on. So it's not as if the idea that money doesn't matter was the foremost idea. It was not. It was really, how do you live within a market economy, right? That creates these kinds of commodifications, reifies these kinds of values. And what is it about art specifically, right, that allows it to make us question this ecosystem in a way that almost no other form of human endeavor does, right? That's part of what Markets of Resistance, in a way, was about. So I do encourage the passion within which this conversation is happening to please continue, because if nothing else, it simply increases the value of Philippine community and Philippine art.